Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Akibatun lil Muslikin. Allah fi kulli umri yasta'in. Allah fi kulli umri amjid. Innahu Rabbi yuhibbu mu'min ladhi yusalli wa ibadatuhu wa mukhlisin min mukhlisin. Muhammadan huwa Sayyidina Makbubana innahu kana Rasulun Nabiyyan salawatu Allah Ta'ala والسلام عليه. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wabarakatuh lil ikwani waqti fi din. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wabarakatuh lil ikwani waqti fi Afrika wa Europa wa kulli makan. My dear brothers and sisters, I'm sorry I'm late. I've had a lot of difficulties with the net tonight. We had a lot of rain, and then we had the windstorm as well. So please forgive me for that. And I'm late. I know I probably lost some people, but it was not by design. I tried to be on time because I know people's time is very precious. So with that said, I'll get started here. Again, we're talking about the Khalid ibn Waleed, Saif Allah. And we left off the last time about the war, the battle between the Romans and the Muslims. And now that Prophet والسلام, wanted to take the fight to the Romans to drive the Romans out, since they were killing Muslims. And we know also, which I didn't specify the last time, that the first battle between the Muslims and the Romans was when the Prophet began to send emissaries to make dawah. Dawah means invitation to Islam. And one Roman provincial governor found this emissary and he slaughtered him, literally tortured him to death. This triggered and angered the Muslims, and it angered our Prophet ﷺ. So the first battle was going to be on. And I told you the last time that this battle of Muta, was a decisive turn in the events, because you have a superpower at that time, which was Roman, and you have the Persians. Now the Romans, the Muslims were in position now to fight. And I gave you the proofs in the Quran in Surah Anfal, Surah Jihad, and what Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has given the Muslims directions on how many Muslims we need to fight against disbelievers. And as I specified to you the last time we had this review, is that there's one Muslim equals 10 disbelievers. This is the ratio. So anyway, as we look at this, Khalid, radiallahu anhu, he was a soldier in this first battle. He was not designated the commander. He was not Saif Allah, as we understood, as I explained the last time, at this time. And what we understand to this particular battle, which was interesting, is that there were about roughly 90,000 Romans and approximately 3,000 Muslims. And the three leaders who were designated to lead the Muslims in battle were slain, one after another. And I gave you also the proofs, and also what was written down by the Prophet ﷺ was given this vision by Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. He was looking into the battle, and as each one of the leaders fell with the Islamic standard, the Prophet sent the person out to tell the people who were waiting for news that these people had fell. And so, and then I told you the reins of the leadership of the army in the Battle of Muta was given to Khalid. This is the first time Khalid led, and it's going to be, he would now be the commander of the Muslim forces from this time on. And so I told you about what happened with him. I explained how he was, he had went through the Romans like a hot knife through butter. And the Romans begin to write about that. And if those who did not see last time, as I explained to you before, the priest of the Roman priest had a vision, what we call ru'ya in Arabic. He had this vision, and he saw where there was a black banner, and he told the emperor and his court that he should not fight them, because there was a man also leading that, and this army was very, very strong. He advised him not to fight it. But as I specified last time, he ignored that advice. And as we get caught up again, you remember I was telling you that the Hercules was so enamored by this new prophet that he had got some dignitaries from Mecca to come to discuss the prophet, his prophethood, and they did discuss that. So he finally told the emissary that he knew his days was numbered in Syria and in the Middle East, and as we call Jazir Arab in Arabic, and we know what has happened from that point. So now the battle raged on in Battle of Muta. The Muslims were victorious in the sense that they saved the army, because there's only 3,000 of them, and it's recorded that I forgot now how many were killed. It wasn't that many killed. 108 or so was killed, but scores and thousands of Romans were killed. So they go back to the Medina, and they are chastised for being cowards and so forth and so on. But the Prophet, ﷺ, chastised the people, told them to stop, and that Khalid was now safe, Allah, Masloul, and his sword was going to be unleashed upon the disbelievers. So now they're back in the Medina. It won't be until another 3 years, around there, before the Muslims will go to fight the Romans again, because there's a reason for that. At this time now, our Prophet ﷺ was getting sick. He was falling ill. Oh, let me give greetings. Assalamu alaikum, my dear sister Amina. Assalamu alaikum, my dear brother King. And he was not feeling well. And at this time now, the Arab tribes begin to come and to make bay'ah, we call in Arabic, means to pledge. And there's a system that the Muslims deploy that is far different than any others on this earth, as far as making a pledge to the new ruler. And I've had a class on this before. I won't get into that right now. But these tribes are coming in. Their chiefs were coming in, their imams or amirs or qaid or wali amr. There's many names that we have that in Arabic for this. And so they were coming in to make bay'ah. But there's one man in particular that caught the eye of Bilal. And we would know him at this time as Musaylima, but he'll be dubbed Musaylima the Kadab, meaning Musaylima the liar. Bilal saw him, and he saw equivalent to looking at somebody as an antichrist. Okay, in English, looking at antichrist, we call in the Arabic language called Dajjal. Okay, that's supposed to come to in end times. And he saw that. So he went to the Prophet ﷺ and told him about it. He said, yes, I'm aware of him. So the Prophet was already aware of Musaylima. And there were other things going on at this time. The Prophet ﷺ, he was getting sicker by the day. Then our Prophet ﷺ passed. Rahmatullah alayh. And now the Muslims were kind of in a dilemma because they didn't know who should be the new caliph of the new Islamic caliphate. And it was heated debate was going on with the Muslims themselves in the Medina. And finally, it was voted on that Abu Bakr would do it. At this time, Khalid was not, he was there in Medina, but he was not involved in politics because he was not a politician. Assalamu alaikum, my dear brother Saeed. He was not a politician. He's a warrior. He's a fighter. He's a soldier. He's a conqueror. And so now Abu Bakr was now designated as the first Khalifa of the Islamic Caliphate. Now, some of the hypocrites who came to Islam out of fear learned that the Prophet ﷺ had passed on. They began to come back and make ridda, basically ridda and deen in Arabic meaning apostasy from the religion. And there was one tribe in particular that came, at least they were straightforward in their disbelief. They came forward and say, look, we want to remain as Muslims, but we don't want to pay zakat. This is, and so they try to make the distinction because you know the 5 pillars of Islam. You can't make distinctions and say you will abide by one, but you will disregard the other. This is what they try to do. This established a pattern. So the Shura Council around Abu Bakr debated the issue, and most of them at the time said, look, why don't you just let them go right now? And because they're still Muslims, but they may come against us if we go after them. But Abu Bakr, radiallahu anhu, he said no. He went after the man and dismissed him. Now we have what is called the Ridda Wars. The Ridda Wars, the apostasy, the wars of apostasy. We had tribes, the clans, many different clans now apostated away from Islam because they felt that since the Prophet ﷺ was gone, they didn't have to abide by anything anymore and they can go back to their ways. But they forgot about something. They forgot about this man, Khalid. This is now where he was unleashed, literally unleashed. Abu Bakr sent him to these tribes and clans who apostated. And then especially the ones who actually killed Muslims, who are in their own clan, they killed them if they continued to pray. So now Khalid began to go there. As Khalid's reputation began to soar, fear, and you always hear the Qabilas, they send their spies out there in the out in the open desert to look and wait for the Muslims to come. And they always come back. They say, Khalid is on his way. We saw Khalid, he's coming. And when just by saying his name, it struck fear into these hypocrites and these apostates. So he came, and there was 3 big battles. And there was also now many different Arabs, tribes housing prophets, new prophets, yes, who declared their prophethood after our prophet passed on. And so Abu Bakr Radwan said, no, we're going to take care of this. And Khalid essentially did. But there was one particular individual, before I get back to Musaylima, it was a woman. She claimed to be a prophetess. She said she was a prophet of God and so forth and so on. And she commanded a large troop, and she tried to get another clan to join with her to fight against Khalid, against the Muslims. And eventually he didn't do it. He stayed back with his Qabila. So anyway, this particular false prophet woman, she went in battle with Khalid. Khalid slain her and in the battle. And so they wiped out this clan. But before Khalid took her out, he chased her down. He knocked her off her horse. She was on the ground. He had his sword Allah in his hand. And he told her, he said, this is the sword Allah, and you apostated out. And he ended her life. She was gone, finished. So now there was one big battle left in the Riddle Wars. And this was against Salima the Kadab. There was a letter drafted by the Prophet ﷺ sent to him, and it's a pointed letter. One time I read it, I think on Saeed's program. It was very, very pointed letter. The Prophet ﷺ called him a liar. Called him a liar. This letter, again, was repeated in their battle. So as Musaylima, now he had many clans who didn't want to come back to Islam. They wanted to change Islam to what they wanted. And they believed in the prophethood, of the false prophethood of Musaylima Kadab, the liar. And so before the battle was going to happen, there's things that they do. They barter first. They always barter. This is instruction from the Prophet ﷺ. You barter to, maybe they'll come to, and again, the Prophet gave the formula is: one, you come to Islam. You come to Islam, and now you're among the brotherhood of Muslims. Secondly, if you don't want to do that, then you pay a jizya, which is like a tax. And then this time you under protection of the Muslims, we don't fight you and so forth. You can carry on about your business and your religion and so forth. If you reject that, then the third demand is the sword. So you got three. This is the Muslim formula. Anytime we have conflicts with anybody, this is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So there was bartering going on. Khalid met Musaylima Kadab in the middle of the field, and Khalid was very pointed with him. He told him, you were hafiz in the Quran, meaning you memorized the Quran, but you were a liar. Now he told him this, and he told me this in his face. And now I want to give you something else about the way the Arabs are doing at this time. They had duels before they began to fight. This is as it was written. The two sides are about ready to fight. And what would happen is the warriors on either side would call out the other, and they would bring and have a fight in the middle of, between, and they call them out. And he said, Manu Mubaris, meaning who wants to fight? Who wants to fight me? And so the guy would come out and they would fight. And usually there's 3 or 4, maybe 5 duels in this regard, man to man. And that's it. And whoever wins. They go back to their respective sides. And at this time, Khalid called out Musaylima, the Kadab, called him out and said, come out here to fight me. He refused. So they sent the man out, and of course, Khalid slain him quickly. He called him out again. Musaylima would refuse to come to fight him. And then he called him out again the third time. And the reciters of the Quran for Khalid, and that's the other thing too, I want to mention to you, they established a sunnah as well, because the Prophet ﷺ never said you couldn't do it, and he never talked against it, because he knew everything that they did on the battlefield. Before the battle would even begin, the Muslims would recite my favorite surah again, that's Anfal, what I've been talking about, Surah 8. They would recite this, and they would have the reciter recite this. He had a beautiful voice, and he would recite this, to the end before they had the battle. And so he then began to tell the apostates what kind of leader you have if he's a coward to come out and fight, and because it's custom. If you called out, you must be a man. You must come out to fight. Musaylima was called out 3 times. He refused to come out to fight Khalid. Khalid called him out 3 times to come and face him. He refused. So the man who recited the Quran got up and started to yell at them and said, what kind of leader you have? Look at this. Do you know that the Prophet ﷺ sent him a letter? He called him a liar. He called him a liar. And many of them were dismayed when they heard this. They did not know of this letter. They were dismayed. At this time, now the fighting began. And it was a bloody war. Many Muslims lost their lives because of this liar, this Kadab. And so they defeated him. and it was a big, big, big battle. And now they begin to unify the peninsula again, and there were some other little things that's going on too. Now I will give you this. I'm going to move on to something else about Khalid, and I want to give you another thing about the Sunnah, because I kind of brought this up last week a little bit. When the Prophet ﷺ was sent to this one particular Kabila, the Qaid, the commander or the imam of the village of this clan, was killing Muslims. If he caught you praying, he would take an ear, he would take an eye, he would take a nose, or he would take a finger or a hand, and he would slay them. He had a wife also who was reported to be very, very, very beautiful, a very beautiful woman, but she stayed firm in Islam. When Khalid was coming, the spies who were out there watching now reported Khalid is near. So he ordered the people to go out to pray, hypocrites to go out there to pray. It didn't work because they called out the Adhan and nobody answered it. So anyway, they showed them making prostrations, but the emir of the village, he went off away from everybody. So when they came in, nobody put a fight against. There's a few here and there put up a fight, but they took them quickly. So they caught the emir, and the emir talked against the Prophet ﷺ. And here's where it was reported that there was a disagreement, because Khalid said that he did not order to have his head taken, but someone misunderstood him, and they took him and this emir of this clan and then slayed him. Khalid, out of remorse, and he went to marry the wife of this slain emir, which caused a lot of problems. He was called back to the Medina to explain his actions. He explained his actions, and then Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu sent him back out there. So after all this was done, we're talking about a 3-year period. Now the Romans were acting up again, and they said, okay, we're gonna take them out. Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu said, okay, we're gonna now devise a plan to take out the Romans, to drive them out of the Jazira Arab, the peninsula, once and for all. This is interesting what happened here. He had sent some other companions, favorite companions, out before Khalid, and they went to take some towns in Syria and so forth and so on. The Romans now were planning a big battle, and so was Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu. And so the Muslims got bogged down in some fights here and there, and they took some villages of some places they could not take because the Romans were too strong. They hadn't fought the Romans yet. They were fighting Arabs who were Christians and some who were apostates. Abu Bakr said, he says, I'm going to send Khalid. Yes, he sent Khalid. Khalid took the reins of the Muslims. Now they begin to take city after city. Hercules was now waiting. This is now the second big battle, which is called the Battle of Basra. At this time, Basra was sitting in an area, and the Romans are waiting for the Muslims to come from one area. But Khalid, being safe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, gave him instructions. What he did, he went around through the desert, and this part of the desert was harsh. There's no water, but there was Bedouin who traveled across this desert, and there was one by the name of Rafa, his name. He knew the desert like the back of his hand because him and his father used to travel this desert. He said, now there's two reports that said, one is that he didn't know where there was water, and secondly, they said that they used camels And the camel stores water, and he took a lot of camels and he slayed the camels to take their meat and the water. This is two reports. The second report says that he led them to an area where the water was, and they dug this one area because he remembered a branch, a small tree, and underneath there was water because him and his father used to get water there. So they went and they got the water. What happened was the Romans did not look at their flanks and realize that Khalid came through the desert. Hercules was so dismayed by this, he was impressed as well about Khalid. Khalid swooped down on Busra, and he laid a whammy on them, a big one. And this battle here, they slayed thousands and thousands and thousands of Romans. Now Hercules is back in the corner. He's got to figure out how he's going to fight, say for Allah. So now he called troops back from present-day Turkey, Armenians, and I think some other Europeans who also were involved in the Roman Empire, and sent them. They were 200,000 strong. And they went to a place called Yarmouk, we know today is Syria. This is where the big deciding battle was going to take place, my brothers and sisters. And before I get into that, I'm going to give you a backdrop of something. Hercules had nothing but praise about Khalid. The Persian emperor praised Khalid. The soldiers, governors, and all of praised him. They were in awe because they know they could not defeat him. They were under the impression that the sword came down from subhanahu wa ta'ala into his hand. That's why they could not defeat this man. So now there's bartering going on before the big fight. Almost about 2 weeks, they were bartering back and forth, making demands and so forth, because this is the way it was. And finally, they just could not come to agreement, and the war was going to be on. They say the Muslims came into the battle about 20,000 to 30,000, or roughly. They said the Romans had 200,000. And this battle went on for almost, I think, if I'm not mistaken, between 10 to 12 days. And it was a vicious battle. And the Muslims fought. And if you look at some of the things they have on YouTube now, where they show the strategies that Hercules was using and the strategies that Khalid was using, very interesting, how they were maneuvering the men and so forth and so on. But the last day, when the Muslims finally attained victory, is, I have to mention this, my brothers and sisters. This was something else. The Muslims basically didn't lose many people. This is by the grace of subhanahu wa ta'ala. They said they lost approximately 3,000. That's with their rough account. But the Romans lost 150. Can you believe this? 150,000 Romans were slain in this battle alone, a battle of Yarmouk. Only 3,000 of the 30,000 Muslims were martyred. Because they're not slain, they were martyred. Because a Muslim fights in battle like this, he's martyred. He's shaheed. That's right. So the last day, Khalid devised a plan of attack that was absolutely brilliant. So he told his people what to do. They would go into battle and then fake retreat. They make the Romans believe that they had now broke them. So here's the battle going on, and there's maneuvering back and forth. Khalid's maneuvering. Finally, the word came down. The Muslims begin to run. As you know, in Islamic law, no Muslim turns his back to an enemy. You know what subhanahu wa ta'ala says that in the Quran. You don't turn your back. A Muslim does not turn his back on an enemy. You know why that is. Because the enemy will come, they could slay you. You never turn your back. But Khalid in this wanted to use this deploy. The Muslims begin to retreat back to their camps. The Romans left their ranks because now they too wanted to collect money. Ornaments and so forth, like this, what we call Matter of fact, that's why you call this surah Anfal. It means war booty. Okay, it means the spoils of war. This is what it means. The Romans begin to chase the Muslims back into their camps, and then they skirmish a little bit here and there. But off to the horizon was Khalid and the cavalry. Roughly around 10 to 15,000 of them. So they got the Romans into the position they wanted. The Romans now had no place to retreat. And Khalid swooped down on them. They began to slay them. Again, like hot butter through knife, begin to slay them. As the Romans began to run, they were cut off because in the back of them, Khalid deliberately chose this area to fight because he knew that they had no retreat because why? There was a cliff there and it was a way down. I mean, they would fall, and many of them did fall to their death. And so they were pinned in like on a cliff, and only way out, they would have to jump, and they're dead because there's a cliff. But in this battle, in the last hour, they say Khalid went crazy. Literally, meaning not mentally crazy this way. Him personally, he was slain. They said that he slayed over 100 people within an hour. Can you imagine the strength of someone? How? You slay 100 people. And on top of that, the commander of the forces was behind a heavy guard. Khalid took it upon himself to go get him. Now, there's two reports that say that he slayed him there. Others said that he made his retreat out of there and Khalid caught up with him later and slayed him. There's two reports on that. But they all agree on one thing. Khalid began to attack the royal guards of the emir of the Muslim. I mean the Romans. He began to attack them, and he was slaying them left and right. This is one man. Now these are the trusted bodyguards. He began to slay them like a hot butter through knife, trying to get to the commander of the Romans. And they said it was 100 or more that he slayed. Some of the people like Abu Beda, he's one of the favorite commandant. He also wrote about what he saw. Others wrote they watched because now the battle's close to being in because the Muslims begin to destroy the Romans. The Romans were defeated, almost defeated. Now Khalid decided he's going to go to the commander. He began to take out their guards. And if you can envision this, here's one big, strong, brown-skinned black man. With his safe, he's slaying people up and down like they're children, he's fighting kids. And they witnessed this, and they all talked about it even to this day. So what happened was he finally slayed the commander. They destroyed 150 Romans in the Battle of Yarmouk. 150,000 Romans were slain. Only 3,000 Muslims were martyred. This propelled Khalid's reputation and sealed it as one of the greatest warriors. Because you think about it, there was only 30,000 Muslims. There was 200,000 Romans. They were a war machine. They're a killing machine. They've been for centuries. And he took them out. Now, at this point, the other towns who were under the Romans began to fall. When they heard Khalid was coming, they began to run. And you could hear them. And it's reported by historians that they would come and say, Khalid is coming. Khalid is coming. And you hear people repeating his name and they're running. This is the fear by his name alone. And he began to take these places one by one. So finally, Hercules, he was defeated. He knew that. So he went back to Constantinople. He took the Romans back with him, and there was only some left in Quds, which is Jerusalem. And so Khalid at this time decided, okay, he got word, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go and take out the last remaining Romans. At this time, Abu Bakr, radiallahu anhu, he passed on. And now one of the favorite, Omar, radiallahu anhu, he took over now, and they called them now the Amir Mu'minin. This is the name we used even to this day. And he wrote a letter to give it to one of the companions to now take the reins as the commander of the Muslim army. He removed Khalid. And I've talked about this before with people, and because for me, I was, and you know, I understand the logic behind it, but I'm still not understanding why Omar. I still have this doubt. You know, stuff for law. I had that, and he removed him. Now here you have Saif Allah. He just now drove out a superpower. He just now destroyed them. He took them out. And so here he gave the reins to another to take over. So Khalid was put back as just a regular soldier. But Khalid didn't complain. He continued on to fight. Then here's a fateful situation happened. The Romans were in Quds. And you remember that priest I was talking about earlier? The priest claimed that he had this royal and he knew of Khalid and so forth and so on. Well, Hercules had moved him to Jerusalem, to Quds, as we say in Arabic. When the forces were coming, the Romans did not want to fight. They didn't want to fight. So they began to barter with the new commander of the Muslims. Khalid was back trying to figure out how they can go into the walls and how can they get inside there to start to take the Romans out. So there was kind of a disconnect going on between the new commander of the Muslims and Khalid and his people, because there's people follow because they became rich behind Khalid, and they knew that Khalid could not be defeated. So they had a informant inside who wanted to get, he wanted to let the Muslims win because he's a Muslim secretly. So what they did, they had a big party inside there because they were feared they were safe because they had given word that they would not be attacked. The Muslims would not try to come over the walls and attack them. So they had a big party and a feast and an orgy and everything because they were doing that in those days. They were, not the Muslims. And the informant came when the people were drinking and drunk. He opened up the gates. So entered Khalid and another famous warrior called Al-Khaqqa. He's another one that we should talk about as well. And rest of battle-hardened Muslims now entered in. They begin to take it to the Romans. They begin to slay them inside now in Quds, slaying them again like hot butter, like a knife, hot knife through butter. The Amir went on the other side of Quds and got back to the new commander and told the commander, Khalid is in killing. I thought we had an agreement. So they sent Muslims in there to go to stop Khalid and Al-Khaqqa to kill the Romans. So when they met up, he was very upset. His blood was hot. He said, hey, we can't let these guys go. He said, no, I make an agreement. This is again established a new sunnah. If the Muslims give safe passage, one Muslim gives safe passage for another person, a disbeliever or something, we as Muslims must honor this. This was established right now at this time. He gave them safe passage to go back, to leave out, and that they would take over Quds. That was not satisfactory for Khalid. He wanted to slay them because he know that he's going to face him another time. But he had to listen to what his commander told him, so they let them go out. But they found that they made treachery because they end up collecting in another place, but Khalid went there anyway and killed him and killed the commander in another incident. So now we're at a point now, my brothers and sisters, the Muslims are now taking most of the Jazira Arab. So we know from Yemen, if you look at a map, going up, we see Mecca. We start going up. Now we're in Syria. In Syria, what they call Al-Sham was now being taken. So if you envision a map that has now been taken, now they had to deal with the Persians. The Persians have been sitting back, their spies watching, everything was going on. They made the reports back to the emperor about the Muslims. And if you remember correctly, one of the letters that the Prophet ﷺ gave was to the emperor of Persia, present day Iran. And you remember what he did? He slayed him. And you know, at those days, you don't slay a messenger. He's only a messenger, but they slayed him. They tortured him, killed him, and he tore the invitation letter from the Prophet. He tore it up. And so that was the back of mind of the Muslims. But if you remember when I first started talking about something, the Prophet ﷺ was given the companions about an event that would occur. This event will happen. As the Muslims begin to get ready to engage the Persians begin to get arrogant. And so they took to battle in first battle. They took the battle and they said, okay, these guys we know them to be Bedouin. Even though they know the reports, and they got their butts kicked. Then they came back stronger and they got their butts kicked again. Now they're moving closer to go into present day Iran. And so now they finally made it. And there was an ornament there that they gave. There was the emperor had moved out. He's gone. And they gave these clothes, and there was one headdress that the Prophet ﷺ knew about. He told the companions it had to blow their mind, because he said that some man would take this ornament from the Persians and he would parade himself around in the Medina with it. And it happened, my brothers and sisters. It happened. So at this time now, Khalid, they now had just took out the Persians, took them out. So here he's now took out two powerful superpowers of that time. The Persians did not go easily. They did not go. But before they could do everything, there was an incident that occurred. And this is what, again, caused a big contention. When Omar was asked to come to take the keys of Quds. Now the Muslims is taking Quds. He dismissed from the military altogether Khalid. You say, what's going on here? The most favorite warrior, the conqueror, who just took out two superpowers. Now you took him out of command, and now you remove him out of the army, period. The reasoning behind this was because, again, the Muslims, we have rules. And when we give sadaqah, remember sadaqah for the Muslims, that's charity, okay? Alms, charity. Well, it was alleged that Khalid was given excessive amount of sadaqah. So when they called him to question, he explained that it was from his own wealth. But the appearance didn't look good. So they removed him, and he became a governor of one province there in Syria. So now he was out of the ball game, at this time. He was out of it. He's finished. And there was a lot of bartering going on now between the Muslims about this, and many did not like it. But Omar, he explained, because the people began to worship Khalid, and they forgot about subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why he removed him. He was already hearing it from the Romans. The Romans worshipped Khalid. And I'm going to have to go back to something, because I want to give you something that you should know how powerful this man was. In the Battle of Yarmouk, I was waiting to give you this. One of the generals called Khalid out. This is, okay, in one of the battles, near the last, because I think they had like 12, almost 12 to 14 days. I think they fought something around between 10 and 14 days. They fought. This general's name was Georgie. He called Khalid out, and they met in the middle of the field between the sides. He began to ask Khalid questions. He asked Khalid, he said, Khalid, is it true that your Lord sent a sword down to you, and that's why no one can defeat you? He said, no. He told him the truth. He began to ask him a whole bunch of the series of the questions. He told him how he got the name Saif Allah and so forth and so on. He was so impressed, he converted to Islam on the battlefield. You read that story, it's very interesting. He was a general. Georgie was his name. He came back with Khalid back to the ranks. The Muslims congratulated him. They gave him wudu because he's a new Muslim. He took his clothes off. They gave him other clothes that Muslims wear, which was an imama. This here in Arabic, ima, and clothes that robes and stuff that the Muslims wearing at the time. And he was slain. He was martyred in the battle, but he's saved because he came to Islam. I wanted to give you that story to show you the impact, because the Romans were under impression that Subhanahu wa ta'ala actually dropped a sword. And Khalid took the sword, and that's why no one can defeat him. But he quickly told that. But even though he said that, the Romans still didn't believe it. So when Khalid was out of the picture, the Persians said, hey, man, we got a chance again. They begin to act up again. And now the Muslims had to go back to fight them under new leadership. And this is where Al-Khaqqa, I told you about him, he had to come into present-day Iran and Iraq to fight the Persians there, and finally they defeated them. So Khalid now was, he was getting old, I guess, because he's already an older man. But you think about all the battles. He was tired. Your body, you think about this. And so he was getting sick. He knew his time was getting close for him to die. And so as the Muslims began to establish their caliphate, Khalid was dying. And he had, his son was with him, his oldest son, and he had a trusted companion also with him and some other brothers there. Now Khalid was bedridden. Now here's Saif Allah, strong, powerful conqueror or ruler, a soldier deluxe, could not be defeated after 100 battles, got accolades from the world greatest powers at that time, who gave him the emperor and also the king of the Persians. They all praised him. Soldiers praised him. Here he is lying in his bed. And Khalid at this time is almost ready to go out. And he began to make series of speeches. Anybody can read, because there's a whole bunch of them. Some were, every time I see this, I never like to see, there's a movie about this, and some awesome excerpts about what happened to him at the end. And sometimes when I look at it, it made me cry, because he's one of my favorite, because I see this strong brother, ancestral brother, Radiyallahu anhu, and he was fighting. Here he's strong as an ox, and he's dying in his bed, like he said, like a camel, old camel. And finally, he passed. And when the word came back to Omar Radiyallahu anhu that he died, then Omar and the Muslims were very sad. And so here ends a chapter of an important chapter of the Muslim history, my brothers and sisters. Because without this man, the Muslims could not have done what they did to take, and we would not have the caliphate at that time. And the Muslims would not be able to spread as they did, because they would have had the Romans to deal with. Now, I will say this too. The Romans didn't go quietly. They went back to Constantinople. But you remember something, they still had Egypt. And so they figured that they were going to take the Muslims, they were going to try to trick the Muslims, and they take to the ocean. But the Muslims are guided by subhanahu wa ta'ala. Word came back that the Romans had took to the ocean to circle around, come back through Arabia to go after the Muslims in their own territory with a huge force. The Muslims had boats, began to build the boats, and they began to go out to ocean, and they fought the Romans. When they defeated them there in the ocean, then they sent the close friend of Khalid, who's now passed, to Egypt to take it out, to take the Romans and throw them out once and for all. So they did. And this set another tone, as I talked about in another class, I think, matter of fact, in Saeed's class. When the Muslims took over Messer in Arabic, or Kemp, as we know that in the African languages, Kemp, or Egypt in English, this sets another chain of events. And I talked about before, I won't get into it here now, but the Muslims begin to spread from there all the way across into West Africa, all the way across to Morocco, to where I'm living at today. And so this is how Islam spread. The rumor that they came through with, with a sword, and they began cutting the heads off the brothers in West Africa and telling them to convert, it didn't happen, because they sent emissaries and there were already trade going on. And so what happened was that this element did not happen. They came to Islam quickly, very quickly. They saw how meticulous they were, and they sent people who were the same color. They didn't send the quote unquote white Arab there. They did not. But this set a chain of events that would bring forth of course, the conquering and the taking of Spain will be called Andalus. And I talked to Saeed's program, matter of fact, about this. So the Muslims had spread to many parts now. They went even to the north, all the way into India. You know what happened there? They ruled India for 1,000 years. They didn't stop there. They went further south into the ocean. They went into Malaysia. They went all the way down to the Philippines, again with trade. The Asians, the Malaysians and the Indonesians, the Filipinos began to see this, and they converted to Islam. This is how the spread came about, because of these battles that the Muslims won, and they established the caliphate. And now they sent emissaries out, and they were trading. And we know this. They went into China. And we know also, which is an interesting factor too. You're talking about the Vikings, and they always tried to cover this, but now historians have found graves where the Vikings had died. Vikings had on the thing, I'm trying to remember, I think the symbol of Allah, because we know the Muslims did go and reach the Vikings, because we know that, I think it was Ibn Battuta, I think he went and reached them, and he wrote about them. If I'm not mistaken, it's him. So now all of this, my brothers and sisters, to show you what happened, how Islam began to spread, how the Muslims won. And again, we go back, because I know we'll have distractors will still say the same thing. They say, well, we're warmongers. It's not the case. We had no right, they say, to fight the Romans and the Persians. That's not true. Because if you look at the history, even though we know the racist historians will put in there, they had no right to be there. But you think about that. The Romans it's not their natural homeland. The Jazira Arab is not. They've been there for centuries as conquerors, yes, but that's not their homeland. And secondly, they begin to kill the Muslims ruthlessly. So they had to be taken out. And the Persians also were occupiers, and they had to take them out. So we see all of this happening, how Islam spread. Then it moved all the way up into Turkey. We know that. We have companions that died there. And it began to spread, my brothers and sisters. Islam spread, and then it went through Africa. And of course, you know, our brothers in West Africa, they took it. And did they take it? We have beautiful caliphates, not caliphates, that's emirates inside Africa. We have favored from generations of generations, Black African leaders. Many of them look the way I look. I mean, some almost literally identical. It's shocking. Ema, everything, color, beard, so forth and so on. And so we took it and we ran with it. The Arabic language that we speak and learn, it was cultivated and it was put into a master language basically by who? The Moroccans. And there's a system that I studied it. I have it here. And it teaches you how to understand the Arabic language. He was Amazigh. He was not Arab. He was Amazigh. And he developed this Ajamiyya. That's right. I've studied it. And those who studied this, I've studied it. And once you study this, it will bring your Arabic up real high. And it's very difficult. But he shows you how to understand the classical Quranic Arabic, not the modern Arabic we understand today, because there are differences. I'm telling you right now, there's differences. I explained, I think on Saeed's program again, there's some differences in the language, because I'm here in Morocco. I know they speak an offshoot, but they understand the class. I speak classical Arabic. So when I go out, I speak classical Arabic, but they speak what is called a derja. And so this derja is offshoot of the classical Arabic. So anyway, our people took the mantle from their brothers who left the Arabian Peninsula, and they began to formulate Islam. And you know, we've had Usman Dan Fodio, we had Muhammad Mahdi there in Sudan. You had Samari Touré of present-day Cote d'Ivoire. We had, Sunni Ali. We had Askia Muhammad. We had Omar Dal. I mean, you can go the list. All of these beautiful, great ancestral African brothers adopted Islam and preserved Islam in West Africa in particular, and East Africa as well. So Islam, my brothers and sisters, spread it the right way. And we look at one man in particular, a warrior, a conqueror, who brought fear, who brought down two of the greatest powers at that time to their knees. With minimal men, they were sending at him 100,000, 200,000 to conquer mere, 30,000, 20,000, 15,000, 10,000 Muslims sometimes. That's it. And they took out the Romans and the Persians, my brothers and sisters. And remember, as I said, the jihad today is not jihad as I explained to you before, in my opinion. When you sit back 5 or 6 kilometers away behind a tank or some howitzer, and you can shoot bombs back and forth all day long. They didn't have that. It was man to man. If you were a punk, you're gone. You had to man up and you had to fight. It was man-to-man battles. That's how it was. That was a real jihad. Those are the real mujahideen that you see in those days, not the stuff that we see today, which I don't call this jihad. It's not. Because when the enemy's sitting back, way back, 30 kilometers down, and they're shooting bombs and back and forth, so, why don't we man up? Okay, your American soldiers, you have them and they fight the Muslims. We man up and we fight. You fight in this regard, not with these shooting bombs. But one scholar said he saw a royal. I will say this, and I'm getting ready to close on, brothers and sisters. He said that the satellites in the sky will dissipate And we will return to that. And it's true. You know why? Because the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadiths about near the end times, remember, there's going to be a lot of fierce fighting, and it's going to be hand to hand again. He said because the satellites will be taken out. And we're starting to see things like this now. Because if you look at the Sahara, okay, Sahara in Arabic, if you look at the Sahara, the great big desert there here in North Africa, there's pockets in it. Have you noticed? And I get ready to close. I just want you to think about something. How are these Mujahideen groups hiding there in the desert? You think about it, my brothers and sisters. With all the technology that the Europeans and Americans have, why think they can't find these guys? They're not hiding behind big forests and stuff because it's not that. It's very few. They have oases, but the oases are not densely popular. You know, it's not. They're not dense. They have oases here and there. This open desert. Yes, there are hills and valleys and so forth. Because the satellites can't find them, my brothers and sisters. There's some magnetic field that's there that prevents ultimate spying on them. Because you have to ask the question, how are these groups allowed to flourish out there? You see that going on now in Burkina Faso. They're killing and then they return back to the desert. They do this and they do that and they kill and then they run back into the desert and nobody can find them. I mean, and we have all this technology that we have all of this technology, these satellites that you can train down. You can find even the strength of an army, but they can't find these guys. I find it very interesting. So, my brothers and sisters, I'm going to conclude today, and I like to give a shout out here to my brother Saeed. Thank you for coming, my brothers, for showing up today in Amina, and also my brother Sundata Method. He's got his program developing, my brothers and sisters. Give him a shout out and join his station there. He's got interesting topics. He brings another perspective, a very intelligent perspective on Islamic issues and also on Pan-African issues as well. And he's a dedicated brother to Islam. And so you should support his station. And I don't know if our other brother here, Talib, I don't think he's here. But we have brothers, and each one gives a perspective. And I believe this is healthy because you should, my brothers and sisters, you have Muslims, and all of us have our strengths and weaknesses. And you get a perspective on Islam from different Muslims, which is good. And as long as we are abiding by the Quran and Sunnah, you should follow it. If you see me deviating from it, you take me to task for it. You give me your proofs, you take me to task for it. Because we're ordered to do that because we're supposed to follow the Quran and Sunnah. So if any of us are away from that, we should be taking the task for it because that's normal. And you go and correct me, say, look, Sheikh Yahya, I think you made a mistake on this surah. You correct me. I don't take offense to that because we're human beings and will happen. So and anyway, like I said, this brother's got a outstanding channel. He gives a very intellectual point of view to Islamic issues. You should join his station. And then you have Brother Saeed. He's got his Pan-African TV station. He's well noted, grounded in Africa. He made his history here to Africa as well. And his station he's got a variety of different things going on. Again, different perspectives on our problems as Black people and Pan-Africanism and so forth and so on. So we have brothers there, our sisters and brothers that you should be supporting and support them because it gives you different perspectives and also we're Black men, and Black women. We came on the same slave ships. Don't ever forget that. We didn't come on different. We came on the same slave ships. We had the same slave masters. Don't forget that. So you should, when it's right, you support your brothers and sisters. When they got these platforms and they're doing the right thing, you support that. So that's what I ask as your elder, you support the brothers and sisters that have these platforms, especially the Muslim platforms, because we need this. The educational for us, for Black people in general, is bad. We don't have it. We're behind the 8 ball, behind the other groups. We shouldn't be there, especially the African Americans, the Africans born in America. We should be more advanced in Islamic the studies than we are. We're not. We're not progressing. We're regressing. So this is one reason why I focus on shows like this, because I want to bring it to my brothers in the West in particular. That's why I don't speak any of the Arabic. I could have programs in Arabic, but we have many who speak Arabic, but our brothers and sisters don't. So I try to give them something from my knowledge, what I have, and give it to them so they'll do their research. This is important because we're behind the 8 ball. I'm from there. I'm from the United States. I'm from Compton, California, matter of fact. So I know that we are lacking in education as far as for Muslims. And we shouldn't be doing that today, my brothers and sisters. We should not be that far behind. We should be better at it, because I'll give you this and I will close. Now, many will say Arabic, this, and so forth and so on. As we've been harping, it's an Afro-Asiatic language. Arabic is. Pick it up, my brothers, sisters, and Muslims. And also, there's Hebrews here. You pick up Hebrew. That's Afro-Asiatic language as well. You adapt one of those languages. You should adapt it, because this is the language that Subhanahu wa Ta'ala brought down. He sent it to the Jews and to the Muslims, Hebrew and Arabic. So you should learn, the Muslims, you learn Arabic. Our Hebrew brothers and sisters, you learn Hebrew, because they're sisters. They're very close in language. So I give you that, my brothers, just as a guide, just to get you to think and whatnot. But I am a stickler. We should go out and support our brothers and sisters that have good platforms. And the brothers and sisters who give you a lot of entertainment, I would stay away from them, because there's no knowledge in that. Yes, you can pop some popcorn and a soda pop, and you can get get a few laughs. And sometimes you can do that just for entertainment. But if you want to learn your deen, my brothers and sisters, you have to take the initiative to take it up and start to get grounded into Islam. And you can follow my program. There's many other brothers also out there now too, that's got outstanding knowledge. They graduated from Saudi Arabia and Azhar. So we have now plenty of brothers that you can learn from. Maybe they're not sitting where you're at in Cincinnati or in Cleveland, Ohio, or in Los Angeles, but now you can go on YouTube like this and you can follow one of these guys. And I know quite a few of them. They're grounded down brothers. They're good. They speak Arabic. They have been seasoned. They within the Quran and Sunnah. They're not hypocrites. They're not punks, and they are able to teach our folks the Islamic religion. And this is important that we have this, and we do have this avenue now. We should take advantage of that. So, my brothers and sisters, thank you for showing up. Who else? My brother King also. And I see another person here. They wrote in Russian language. Now, I was trying to learn the Russian language, but I can't. I don't know who this brother is here. I don't know his name. I see he wrote one thing there in Russian, but it's not Russian. Excuse me. That looked like it's Greek. I don't know which. I'm not sure which one he wrote, but anyway, my brothers and sisters, thank you for showing up. I will cover another topic, inshallah, ta'ala, and probably I go back onto the Aqidah Islamiyah again, but we'll see. So I'll leave you with that, my brothers and sisters, and thank you for showing up today, and I really appreciate that, and I hope that you enjoyed this program about Khalid ibn al-Waleed, Saifullah, Rahimullah, Radiallahu anhu. So I leave you with these beautiful words from Jinnah. Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.